Greetings. This is Andre Barnes, and you are watching Finding Super Dad. Finding Super Dad is a blog that is for fathers, and it discusses fatherhood, and it's based on Malachi 4:6. And it says, He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of their children to their fathers. And here at Finding Super Dad, we just want to encourage fathers to be who they are, to be what they were purposed and designed to be, leaders of their household, a support for their children, counselors to their children, and give them the tools that will allow them to equip themselves to do just that. So this week I had an opportunity to interview Minister Eugene Schneeberg, who is a juggernaut and a titan in fatherhood initiatives. He has been a part of the Obama administration for the Department of Justice and has created many fatherhood initiative programs. He is a dynamite speaker and just a pleasure to interview. So he takes us on this journey of how he utilized Ancestry and other DNA tools to find his father. So we chopped this up for 36 minutes, but I took this journey and cut it down to 10. So he could just kind of clearly go over his journey, and there will be follow-up videos as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate your heart. So I wrote a blog about how I found my father using Ancestry DNA technology. And, I've been looking for my dad for upwards of 20 years. I actually, the name that my dad gave my mom when they first met was Charles Graham. And so I've been looking for a man named Charles Graham for 20 years. As it turns out, my father's real name is Theodore Graham. And so had it not been for the DNA technology, I don't think I ever would have found him.
Well, can you describe the process and the tools that you use to kind of get this journey started?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Going back to when I was a little boy, looking for my dad. My mom again told me what she thought was his first and last name, and so I just looked in the phone book. That was the first tool that I used. After pushing past a lot of that initial anxiety around like, what am I going to say? This is going to be awkward. Eventually, I worked up the nerve to start making a couple phone calls, and I talked to a couple of Charles Grahams in Boston, where I'm from. And they were pleasant enough, but they basically said, "No, I'm not your dad." And it was kind of awkward, right? Cold calling strangers, and so you really have to be in a good emotional place to make those tough phone calls. I was talking with a group of prayer partners, partners and friends of mine. I was part of this accountability group called Gideon's Army in Boston. And the brothers, after hearing my story, they put some money together and actually hired a private investigator for me. I thought that was really powerful. But I gave the private investigators the wrong name. So they tried the best they could in the early 2000s unsuccessfully.
Okay.
And so, I said, man, if the private investigator can't find this guy, maybe he's not to be found. And so years have gone by, and kind of my enthusiasm, energy level concerning finding him has ebbed and flowed. Usually around Father's Day in June, I start getting a little bit more motivated, like, okay, let me see if I can find this guy. And one year on Father's Day, I found a Charles Graham. He was the right height, pretty much the right age. He lived in Massachusetts. Talked to him, talked to his wife, and I thought I was pretty close, but it wasn't him then that time either. So fast forward a couple years later, I started kind of getting more familiar with the way the DNA searches work, and whether it's Ancestry or 23andMe, which are the big two companies. And I think Ancestry was running a Christmas package, 50% off. I love the deal. So I ordered the kit. It was like regular price $100 on sale, about $50. So actually, it can't hurt. And the way the technology works now is they actually tell you, if you're matched with a relative, it'll tell you what the relationship is to the relative, and actually how close you are, based on the number of chromosomes or what have you. So when I heard that it had that feature, I said, wow, well, what if I take it and I can find out, maybe I'll be matched with a sibling or a cousin or my father or grandparent or something. And so I did, and I waited for they mail you the kit, you put a little saliva in a test tube, you mail it back. I think they said it would take 4 to 6 weeks. It took about 4 weeks. And you get an email, there's an app, and you get an email, and it said, your results are in. And I'm like, oh man, I went and got my wife. I'm like, man, this is kind of crazy. And I'm expecting to see all these Grahams that I'm related to on my father's side.
Right.
And nobody was named Graham. So it was a little disappointing, because I'm like, man, did I miss it? Do I have the wrong name? All this other stuff. But a couple different third cousins came up, maybe about 5 or 6. And I messaged them all in the system. You could see some people's pictures if they put it up. So I could tell that these third cousins were African American.
Right.
And my mother's white. And so if I have third cousins that are black, then it had to be on my father's side. So,
right.
But another one named Graham, but I messaged them anyway, and I said, hey, my name's Eugene. I'm looking for information about my father, Charles Graham. I was born in the late 70s in Boston. Love to talk. So one of the guys got back to me. He's from New Jersey. And he said, my mother's maiden name is Graham. Let me check for you. So we checked with her, and she said, sure enough, yeah, we have Graham family members in Boston. And so she gave me their names, and I did some more searching on a website called whitepages.com, based on these new names that I had. And I eventually got connected with a guy, Graham, in his 30s. I gave him a call, and he was pleasant, and I told him my story and what I knew about my father, that he was in the military,
right,
roughly this age, roughly this height. And he said, the man you're describing, your father sounds a lot like my uncle, Teddy, or Theodore. So I was blown away. That one, I remember where I was in the car, that I was actually speaking to a first cousin, Graham first cousin, for the first time. I'm 42 years old. I was just amazed. And man, I may be, getting closer to to finding my dad. And so he said, but you need to talk to my uncle and my aunt. They were closer with him. And so he also let me know at that time that his uncle, who he thought was my dad, had passed away in 2004. And so, I kind of prepared myself for that possibility that my dad may have been deceased.
Right. And
so it didn't hit me that hard. I was so excited about just getting information that his death didn't really hit me. So I talked to an aunt down in Georgia, and she said, send me a picture, and I did. And so eventually I talked to an uncle who was closer to my dad, and he said, yeah, based on all the information, definitely sounds like my brother is your dad.
Right.
And sent the pictures and stuff. He said, yeah, you definitely resemble him. And he sent me some pictures of my dad. And, I definitely see the resemblance. And, I'm 6'5", my dad's 6'3". My dad was in the military. He's a Vietnam vet. And so that the height, the age, the look, the military service, all those things. The only thing that was different was he told my mother his name was Charles Graham. His actual name was Theodore. I think Theodore is kind of a peculiar name, and so maybe he didn't like going by that. But he remarried in 1988 to a wonderful woman. I had an opportunity to speak with his widow, and I asked her. I said, this might be a little awkward, but did my dad ever mention that he had a baby out there? And she said, yeah. She said, actually, we looked for a baby boy for about 5 years unsuccessfully, and then kind of gave up. So I thought that was pretty cool that they looked. Well, I assume they were looking for me. But by all accounts, my dad was a great guy. He had his challenges, like we all do. I think he got some healing later on in his life. I think Vietnam took its toll on him.
Right.
and as it did many people. But I'm just very grateful to have some answers now. It turns out I have a half sister, older half sister, and an older half brother. I've had the
Yeah.
opportunity to speak with both of them, and they live in different parts of the country, but they're both great in their own right, and I look forward to getting to know them better. And I've talked to a couple other first cousins since then, and have actually been matched by the DNA with other first cousins, so it puts me squarely in their family. And my sister and I are waiting on the results of her DNA test as well. So I think it's a great service. It's taught me a lot about where my descendants are from, what parts of Africa and Europe and so forth.
Wow.
And like I said, 20 something years of looking, it cost me about $49.99 to find them. So